Hey y'all. How's everybody doing today? I am here today to show you how I did the um, fabric cover file folder journals. And just to give you an example, I don't know if I actually showed you guys this. I think I gave you a sneak peek at this one that I made for myself, and this will be my journal for the remainder of the year. I'm still working on, the one, I'm still working on one, which would be like half of the year, and this is going to be the other half of the year. But so I've had a lot of people after I posted the fabric journals ask me how I did this. So I'm going to show you how to do it with the sheet fabric, okay? And then just sort of folding up. This is actually a pillowcase. And then just actually folding this up to make a pocket, and then leaving the file folder, blank on the inside. But there's so many different variations on this. And I actually went back a couple of days ago and I took some of my buttons from my Happy Mail from a sweet young man who sent me a bunch of his buttons, and I added these on here. So I'm just gonna do the cover today. I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible. This is really simple. I do not do a ton of detailed measuring. So if you like real specific measurements, you're not really going to get that. I'm just going to give you a basic idea, which, I mean, when I did this, I did it just eyeballing it. And then when I prepped these other covers, I did do some actual measuring, but it's not super detailed, like, a quarter inch here and, so many inches there. I just so I had a bunch of, most of this was Happy Mail. I had these pillowcases that were gifted to me, these beautiful vintage pillowcases, and this is one we're going to use today. So first of all, when you do this, because you're going to glue this on to this file folder, and this is dark and this is light. So for this particular one, and I'm going to double it up. I'm going to use both layers so that the glue doesn't show through as much. And when I glue this down, I use this PVA glue. And I hope I'm about out of this. I hope I have enough to do this. But, and I spread it out really well, and then glue it down. And then I have to glue it. This will be 2 layers, so I'll probably have to glue it sort of twice in between layers. But the basics of it is I took, and I hope this makes sense to you guys. I'm not the greatest at explaining things. So I had all these hanging file folders. So the first thing, and these were all recycled from work. They were going to get tossed in the recycling bin. People weren't using files as much as they used to, so I got a lot of these from work. But I'm using this as an example because I'm just about out of all of these. I've just about cut them all down. I have some left that are already cut, but this is not a problem if you're going to glue fabric over it. It's just going to be a little bit tougher to get that to stick. So you might want to take a file folder if you have that sort of edging on your file, and just rough it up a little bit so the glue will adhere. But just for tutorial purposes, you're going to take the file folder, you're going to cut that metal piece off right up underneath. And then you just want to measure like how big. So you can do a super tall journal. You can do the whole file folder, which is almost 12 inches long. And I guess this is like 7 3/4 across. But I cut mine down, okay? So I took 2 file folders and I cut them down to 9 inches, okay? And then I left the length. So if you take the whole length of it when it's open, it's almost 16 inches wide, okay? But then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 2 of them. So you got 9 by 16, okay? And then we're gonna take both of these, but we're gonna take this whole middle part and we're gonna glue it up to, depends on how much flex you want. So what I did was, see where these ridges are, which gives it that flex, Can you guys see the ridges and the, okay, what is my camera doing? I got lights doing funny stuff. Okay, so you see where the ridges are? So that's gonna give you the flex fold. You know, when you get your fabric on there, you can sort of force that to roll and bend where you want it to. I hope that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these two pieces and let me see if I can get it focused in better. And we're gonna glue them. We're gonna glue them up to, you know, maybe that second, so where the natural bend of the file folder is. And I'm gonna leave myself 2 little 1/4 inch places there, okay? And I'm gonna glue this whole thing together, and I'm gonna use, you can use whatever glue you want to. I'm gonna use fabric tack. And because I'm gonna sew this later, and watch my fabric tack not wanna come out. They changed the opening on this fabric tack, which is cool, as it doesn't bubble as much. But it's a little bit harder to get out, it's a smaller opening. So I'm gonna go all the way around. And then I'm just kind of gonna go up and down with my fabric tack. It's very, very technical. Just to make sure I get a good, I'm not super, super concerned about it being totally covered because I'm gonna sew this, okay? But I'm gonna glue this together and I'm gonna go right up to that edge. And make sure everything's flush. And I'm not worried about, you know, super perfection. This is a junk journal. And it's gonna be really pretty, you know. So what you do is you glue that, okay? And then let it dry. And then later on, you know, you can leave this. Just depends on, my suggestion is do your pages, figure out what's gonna be in there, because you're probably gonna wanna cut some of this off, okay? So that it's not going too far in to where this doesn't wanna overlap, right? See what I'm saying? So some of this does need to be cut off, and I usually cut off, this is almost like, I guess this is almost like 2 inches or whatever, so I probably cut an inch of that off, or either just come at that fold and cut it off, okay? So you decide how big you want it there. And then what you do is you take your sheet, and I'm not gonna do all that in the video, I've already done this one, but if you'll see how this was kind of thin, so you can see little, very, very lightly little places where the glue was, but it doesn't bother me that much. I think it's still pretty. So you're gonna cut I actually did a layer behind this of some muslin, or some, some muslin. So you can use muslin, or you can use another kind of, you know, fabric underneath it, whatever you wanna use. Just so you give, because this was thin. So I've cut it and I've glued it, okay? So I glued that layer. Now on the inside, I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna fold this up, okay? And then I'm gonna stitch. I'm gonna stitch around here, all the way around, and then I'm gonna come and stitch up here, and that holds the pocket in. Now, if I want to, I can do a double stitch. I can stitch over here, I can stitch over here, and then that would leave you a little place to put a pin or something in there. So there's just so many ways. You can just stitch it here all the way around, and leave this so that when you bind in your pages, and what I was trying to say is I would suggest getting an idea of how many pages you're going to be in here, put in here, and what size your pages are, so that you can fold it over and see how it's going to fit, you know, before you do your fabric. If you're good at planning stuff out like that, that would probably be better. I'm not necessarily one to do that. I'll make the cover and then be like, oh, okay, well that doesn't fit. Now how am I going to adjust? So sometimes that's how I roll. But and that's kind of how I did the first set of those. I was just playing around with what I had, and then I just made it work. So but if you can do more measuring and make sure. I was a little more careful on these to make sure I had this whole flap cover what I'm gonna put in here, you know, and then have this one go over. So these have been sitting for a while drying, and I'm just gonna run it through my machine and show you how to do that. And you can use any fabric. It doesn't have to be vintage sheet. You know, you can use thicker fabrics. Thicker fabrics work great. I used some thicker fabrics on those other ones that I did. Now let's see. Okay. So for this, I'm just gonna hold this, you know, in place where I want it. You can use the little pins and stuff, or the little clips that I love to use when I'm sewing, if I'm being more careful. But so I'm going to use just a zigzag stitch, and I'm doing it in black just so you can see. And let's hope, yeah. And of course, look, I just reloaded my sewing machine, so it's going to give me a hard time. So it's going to jam up. Hold on. Let's find out what the deal is. Only on video. You know, if I wasn't doing a video, it wouldn't have done this. Yeah, got some thread down in there. All right. So this is what happens in the world of sewing. Okay. There we go. I love how I do that. That's how I grab those strings, because I can't ever do it any other way. All right, so let me pull this out where I started. I wanted to get it jammed up. And we'll try this again. Okay. All right, y'all say a little prayer. There we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna hold this in place. Bottom, and then I'm gonna turn it and stitch all the way across the bottom. Now, this is a little bit thicker because I do have that second layer. So kind of take it slow. I hope this is making sense to you guys. It really is pretty simple, and once you get the hang of it, you can just do several of these. I've got several covers over here. Now where it gets tricky is it's you need space back there. Behind your sewing machine. And I need to be able to flip it over. There we go. Okay. Now make sure, because I had a little bit more left over on this edge than what I did on this edge, but it's okay because we want to pull this sort of tight. Depending on how flexible you want your pockets are. If you want your pockets pretty loose and flexible, don't pull it so tight. Okay, so now we got this, and I'm not worried about that. This is gonna I don't know if you can see this part. I'll show you in a minute. but try to get it, you know, try to get it kind of smooth with your fabric going across. And we're really just stitching all the way around. And you can do, you know, you can do whatever kind of stitch you want. I'm just doing the little zigzag. You can do a straight stitch. You know, you can get fancy. If you have, you know, fancy stitches on your machine, that would be really pretty. You know, in some places to do some fancy stitching. I just don't have. I just have mostly my stitches are basic. I do have a few that would be more interesting maybe, but I just like the basic zigzag. And I'm having to work around all this other stuff that's on my desk too, so. Yeah, so now we have this, okay? So now it's stitched up. And yeah, it's a little cankered right there, but you know, I don't mind that. That's something you could always put, you know, you could always put a piece of lace or something. I'm gonna trim this up right here. I'm just gonna trim this edge because I don't want that all like that. Okay. But I'm not gonna be super, you know, worried about it. But yeah, so now you have pockets all the way across. You can go, and you can see I pulled that tight so that when I stitch, if I stitch here and here, then that gives it gives you a pretty sturdy pockets, okay? Yeah. But that's how that works. And you can always flip it this way. You can do it this way and wrap it around. You can do it this way and wrap it around, put you a tie here. You can put an eyelet and run some lace or ribbon or something through it and tie it around. You could stitch in, if you want to tie here, you could stitch it in here to wrap and tie on the side. There's so many different ways you can do that. So I hope that helps you guys explain how I did that. And then I have some other ones. You can do this so many different ways. So I have some other ones that I was working on too. So this does not have the pockets with this particular sheet fabric. This is just plain, you know, covered like this. Flip it either way. And I can add other pockets. You know, I can go in and I could use white stitching so it wouldn't show up as much to stitch other pockets in, or I could just glue pockets in. You know, I could glue envelopes in here, you know, and do all kinds of stuff with these covers, but I prepped these as well. This one I did do the pockets. This one is like mine. And then this one, I love this right here. This is vintage sheet. And I didn't have enough of it. I've got strings everywhere. I didn't have enough of it to do the pockets. But yeah, so these are gonna be, these will be journals eventually in the shop, these four, okay? But you can see here, I have not stitched up on this one either. And I may just leave that big pocket, but most likely I'll stitch here and here. And it just gives it a little more, you know, it gives it a little more decoration and you can see it. And once I put pages and stuff in here, this you won't see. This is kind of, after I glued it, it's kind of done some weird bending on me here. But once I get pages in here, this will flatten back out, okay? But yeah, it's that's just because I've had them folded up and stacked up, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just left them laid out. But yeah. So these will be finished up later, okay? Anyway, I hope that helps. And then for the ties and stuff, like I did the tie around my journal, keep your, like if you have some scraps, like this was a big piece. Well, you know, it was still a pillowcase, but it was a large pillowcase. So keep these pieces because you can use them. You can use them in the journal, or you can cut these pieces up and stitch them together and use them as a base for your tie. You know, well, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff with scraps. But anyway, so I kept all the pieces, you know, so that I can use them with these when I'm finishing the journals, doing various things with them. Anyway, I hope that made sense, you guys. Let me know, and if you have any questions, just leave me a comment on the video and let me know what you think. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, or the, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. And thank you guys, and I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you soon.